Okay, let's talk a little bit about mindset. During your TEDx talk, the key idea which you shared was that you said, surround yourself with people that are better than you.
Yeah.
Tell me a little bit about this.
You've done good research. Well, I think it's the best place to learn when you're around other people who are ahead of you on a journey you want to go on.
Yeah.
Or if you're in a peer group of people who are very ambitious and like trying to do sort of out of the ordinary things. So in the TEDx talk, I talk about being at a music school. Until the age of 11, I was in a primary school and was known as being good at music. And then I got to this music school and I was one of the worst. And that was quite a humbling experience, but that helped me develop very quickly as a musician. I went to Cambridge. I felt like an idiot at Cambridge because everybody did seem to be more intelligent than I was. But that still got the best out of me. And then I joined an accelerator called Entrepreneur First. I was the second youngest person on our cohort of 50. There were people there who had started businesses before, people there with PhDs and masters. And I felt really out of my depth, but I was also inspired by, this cohort of 50 ambitious people trying to start companies. I think someone with a fragile ego might find that environment intimidating and might not enjoy being, sort of like bottom of the heap, so to say. But I actually think that's like the best place to learn. And if you can just put your ego aside, that's where you learn the most. Okay. And we're in a group called Founders. And I love being in Founders because there are so many people further ahead than me in the entrepreneurial journey.
Yeah.
I find that like really inspiring, really motivating. And I'd much prefer to be, again, small fish in a big pond than in a small group of, well, here's like an analogy. In my friendship group from university, I'm one of the only people that started a company.
So you mentioned then you studied at the University of Cambridge and Entrepreneur First. So if you had to pick one, I'm putting a gun to your head right now. If you had to pick one, right? Formal education, like the formalist of education at Cambridge, or the EF program and accelerator. If you had to pick one, which one would you pick?
That's a good question. I think, I wouldn't have a company if I hadn't I wouldn't be where I am now if I hadn't met my co-founder, had all the support I had from Entrepreneur First. But then I wouldn't have gone into Entrepreneur First if I hadn't been at Cambridge, because they were specifically targeting the computer science course at like Cambridge, Oxford, Imperial in the early days.
Yeah.
But if I could only choose one, I'd probably choose university. I think, knowing myself, I would have still started a company and it might have taken longer. I might not have had all the support and help and guidance of EF. But I knew even at university I wanted to start a company. I had my own small startup at uni. I made something like £1,000 in total from this business, but that was like, I added banner images to a website, and local businesses gave me hundreds of pounds to add one line of code to my website. So when I was like 19, I thought, this is it, I've cracked life. I need to just do this at a bigger scale and I'll be, retired by 25. Yeah. But I'd have gone to Cambridge because I met so many incredible people there. I threw myself into music and sport and I developed a lot as a person. And I think if I'd just gone straight into starting my own business without the university experience that sort of molded me, I don't think I'd have made it where I am now. A rambly answer, but I'd choose university.
Fair enough. And Cambridge, the degree, I imagine, was a lot longer than the EF program itself as well, right? That was like, a couple of weeks as opposed to a couple of years?
The EF program that we did was a 3-month pre-program, like every Friday in the summer, and then 6 months. Cambridge was 3 years, but actually the terms were only 8 weeks each. So the degree only totaled like 72 weeks in total.
Yeah.
It was pretty intense.
I heard that you, at some point, thought about perhaps almost quitting Cambridge or going to a different university. Is that right?
It was suggested to me by my tutor that I think about it.
Okay.
In my first and second year at university, I threw myself into lots of different activities. I was playing in orchestras. I joined a barbershop group. I had a band. I joined the rowing team in second year because I thought I'm never going to get a chance to do this again in Cambridge. I might as well. I was doing everything apart from my degree. And what that usually leads to is a bad exam result at the end of the year. So I got a third in my second year, a pretty low third. And my tutor said, third year is going to be harder than this. Do you think going to a different university might be easier for you? And I said, it might be easier, but I don't want to do that. I know that, in the first 2 years, I haven't really applied myself, and I'm going to have one final crack at this in third year. And in third year, I did tone down, all of the extra stuff. I actually focused on my degree. But the thing that changed, in third year, we had some entrepreneurship modules. We had some user experience modules. Suddenly, this degree that was very theoretical and mathematical became very commercial. And so I really enjoyed those courses. I also did a project where I built a synthesizer in the web browser. And I was into music and loved this project, and that project did quite well. So I managed to turn it around, and I got a 2-1, and my parents didn't disown me. But yeah, it was touch and go. And, they were encouraging me to go somewhere else because they didn't know if I would make it in the final year.
Sure. Well, look at you now. You managed to pull it off.
Yeah.
A few years ago, you did a great Medium blog post on OKRs, which means objectives and key results for people that don't know. Tell me a little bit about how you set goals and, I guess, advice for others. It's an area that I love and I've talked a lot about before, but what's your view on setting and achieving targets?
In my personal life, in my company, or just generally?
Just whatever comes to you.
Well, I think when it comes to goals, I don't want to use too many cliches, right? But I think consistent discipline is what helps you achieve something. Yeah. So showing up every day, and whether you feel like it or not, putting the work in, that tends to lead to the result that you're looking for if you stick at it and you have the right goal. I think it's very easy in life or in business to spend a long time dreaming up these wonderful goals and thinking about strategy, and you've got your vision board and you've got the 5-year plan, and it all sounds incredible. And actually, when you get down to it and when you start executing, if you don't have good systems in place and you're not doing the right work every single day and measuring that work, and you're not accountable to someone else, then those sort of goals and dreams will remain goals and dreams. So I think habits are important in my personal life. When I'm feeling organized, I'm sort of tracking my daily habits and tracking the ones that matter. I think accountability is incredibly important. When I tried the whole personal OKR system, I had a friend who was my accountability partner, and he also had his own set. And once a month we'd meet up and we'd just say, how's it going? Like, are you making progress? Have you been to the gym? Have you, saved the amount of money that you wanted to save? Have you read the books you wanted to read? And for me, that's really motivating. I don't want to turn up to a drink or a coffee with a friend and say, I haven't done what I said I was going to do. It's really grating. It's quite embarrassing. Yeah. But if I had just set these goals in isolation by myself and not had anyone that I was accountable to, then there's not really any sort of consequence or slight embarrassment, or maybe even shame, which is a strong word, but there's none of the accountability, and so I don't think it's as effective. So in your personal life, I really recommend getting an accountability partner. Maybe it's a coach, just one person that's going to ask you each week or each month, did you do what you said was most important this time last week? And in work, having a cadence every week or every month where you really assess progress, and you say honestly to each other, either, well done, this is going to plan and this is incredible, or this isn't going to plan, what are we going to do to get back on track? And holding each other to account, I think, is really important.
I love that. Having an accountability partner is, for me, the secret formula behind actually getting shit done.
Yeah.
And
yeah.
Oftentimes, with myself, if I've got a meeting planned with somebody, I'm never late to that meeting. I'm always prepared, early, ready to go. But if I've got something in my calendar that I need to do and there's nobody else involved, I'll often just, waste the time and it just gets moved, it gets pushed. Tomorrow becomes the next day and the next day. So I find that even putting that in my calendar with a time and a date and a schedule and a location, it goes back to the Atomic Habits. I don't know if you've read that book.
I actually read James Clear's newsletter and blog before he published the book. Okay. So I want to say I knew him before he was cool. Yeah.
Well, the book was a compilation of the blog posts and stuff, right? So you read that book before it was a book, basically.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, I completely agree. Also, I do a lot of triathlon on the side, and a kind of cheat code there is finding a group of friends or a running club or a triathlon club who are training for the same thing, because I think it's much easier to show up and do your sessions when you've got friends that are doing the same thing. Again, if you're on your own and there's no accountability and it's just you and yourself, it's easy to skip a session. It's easy to wake up a bit later and sort of not show up. If you've messaged your friends saying, I'll see you at the park at 7 a.m, we're going to ride 4 hours today, you'll be there.